And in 1 minute? Okay, we got her coming up in 1 minute. So I've been asked to entertain you for my first rendition of Melancholy Baby. No, I'm not going to sing that. I'm not going to sing no Melancholy Baby. Okay, if we can just go ahead and have your seats, we will be beginning shortly. I hope that you all had a wonderful evening last night and enjoyed the culinary delights that Washington, D.C. has to offer, and that you had a wonderful Valentine's Day. For those of you who didn't have your special Valentine with you today, I know that when you get home, you will give a special Valentine hug to your loved ones when you get home. I brought my special Valentine with me. My wife right here, Tonya Reyes. Stand up, Tonya. Be recognized. Come on. Former council member at the city of Long Beach. I can't believe it. That's the first time she's not usually shy. She didn't stand up. Anyway, so I hope that I know she's here because I saw her, and she'll be with us shortly. So I'm not going to sing. I tell terrible jokes, or at least not ones you want to hear, or in a special situation. We're okay? Hey, that's cool. Never seen that. Who? Oh, okay. I was just informed a little bit of trivia that Susan B. Anthony was born today. This is also, I think, who was it told me, the 60th anniversary of Taco Bell. So, here she comes. Here she comes. Let's give her a warm welcome as she steps up to the podium. Well, now I got my notes here. Okay, again, good morning. My name is Roberto Uranga. I'm a trustee at the Long Beach City College in Long Beach, California, and hearty welcome to all of you. How's the NLS going for you? I hope that you're having a wonderful NLS. Yeah, good, all right. That's good to hear, because if it's not, we do have evaluation forms out there, and if there's something that we need to improve upon or how we can make your NLS experience that much better, let us know and fill out the evaluations forms. We do read them, and we do make changes as necessary when we need to. As usual, as a courtesy to our invited guests and friends, please turn off any of your cell phones or any other communication devices. I like to put mine on vibrate. I will say no more. Okay, at this time, it gives me a great honor and a privilege to introduce a friend of mine that I've known for many, many years, and I'm not going to say exactly. She scolded me the last time I saw her. She says, we're not going to talk how many years. But let me say that I've known Secretary Hilda Solis since her days at Cal State Long Beach when she was a director of a CalSOAP program. CalSOAP is the California Student Opportunity and Access Program. Did I get that correct? Yeah. And from Cal State Long Beach, she went on to direct that program at Rio Hondo College, where she became a trustee. So we have a former trustee with us at the cabinet level. Isn't that just wonderful and amazing? Secretary Solis was nominated by President Barack Obama and later confirmed by the Senate as the United States Secretary of Labor in 2009. Prior to confirmation as Secretary of Labor, Secretary Solis represented the 32nd Congressional District in California in the House of Representatives. In Congress, Solis served on the committees on Energy, Commerce, and Natural Resources. She was the author of the Green Jobs Act, which provided funding for green-collar job training. Secretary Solis has served in the California State Assembly and was the first Latina to serve in the California State Assembly back in, 1994, excuse me. A former federal employee, she worked in the Carter White House, Office of Hispanic Affairs, and was later appointed as a management analyst with the Office of Management and Budget in the Civil Rights Division. Please join me in giving a warm, hearty welcome to our friend, Secretary of Labor, Hilda Solis.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, and buenos dias. All right. Thank you so much, Roberto, for that very kind introduction. And I want to thank you personally for what you have done in your career to educate, train, and inspire so many people, as well as the folks that are here in this room today. It truly is an inspiration for me to be here before so many of you. And as Roberto said, I did serve as a trustee out in California at the Rio Hondo Community College Board. One thing I learned there very quickly is that you have to be adaptable. You have to be able to be flexible in hard times. And now is no different from then in many respects, because we are again faced with some very, very tough decisions and economic challenges here in our country. And I don't think I have to go through all that has happened in the last 2 years and prior to this administration taking office, where we were losing a great number of jobs. On a monthly basis, it would average anywhere from 700,000 to 800,000 jobs that were lost at the beginning of the Obama administration. And when I came into office, people would say, Hilda, why did you take that job? Why did you take the job of being Secretary of Labor? And to be quite honest, I think in my mind, I was thinking more about what I could do to help people. Again, just to continue what I have always in my life believed that a public servant should do, and that is step up to the plate when times are hard and try to resolve problems and face those challenges, because that is something that I've learned very early in my life from my parents and from my different employment opportunities and different mentoring opportunities that I had. And while it seems as though I spent a lot of time in federal government, as you just heard from Roberto, to be honest, I had no idea that I was going to run for elected office at any point in my career. That was absolutely out of the question with my family. Why do you get a master's degree? Why do you go to school to go run in politics and maybe lose it all, right? Because it's a big risk. It is. And I'll never forget when I ran for a community college trustee that I was also, at that time, I remember my mother saying, why do you want to do that? You should be home, working, and you just got married and this and that. And I'm like, Mom, I got to get involved. There's things happening in the community. And there's a lot of young people out there and people that I know could better their lives and themselves if they had an opportunity to get more education. And I know that as a fact, because I wouldn't be standing here as the first Latina cabinet member in the history of our country, a former trustee, a former Pell Grant student, a former work study student, and someone who has a great deal of devotion to this country because of the dreams that I saw realized in my own life, but the dreams that I saw of my parents coming true for them. That even though a daughter of immigrants could come here and work hard and prove herself and open up then those opportunities for other people is something I think is worth talking about, and something that I think our president has also helped to inspire in so many people, because his background isn't that much different from some of the students and people that you work with at your community colleges. His background isn't as different from my own. He was also the first in his family, I believe, to go to college, and he went with the assistance of Pell Grant programs and federal financial aid. And when I think about it right now, and how hard it is for us to move our country to believe that we can do better, that we can and we must do better, and that there is a future for every single one of those constituents that we all represent, that you all represent as trustees, then it gives me a great deal of pride to know that there are people like you that are committed to helping make America great, to make it better, and by doing it, by helping people understand that they have choices to make, and that those tools to make those choices are available at one great institution like the community colleges. And I firmly believe that because I spent 8 years as a trustee at a college, balancing a budget, and even when it was hard times, and the governor said, you have to cut back or our revenues just were not there, we had to do the hard things. And that's what we're doing right now in federal government as well. And I know that some of you are reading about all the changes that may potentially be coming down our way. You just saw, I think some of you, the president's budget that was unveiled yesterday, Pell Grants. Those are hard decisions to make, very hard decisions. And also, in some aspect, looking at how we can raise revenue. No one wants to talk about that. But the fact of the matter is, I think when we all enter into our discussions with individuals, whether you spend time up on the Hill talking to members of the House or the Senate, I think one thing that we need to keep in mind is, what is it exactly that is of value here in this hard time, in this time of crisis, when 14 million people have no jobs? 14 million people, and half of them, 7 million, have been looking for more than 6 months, some as long as a year, some as long as 2 years. Some folks that made well over $100,000 a year, executives in the banking industry, engineers, developers, all kinds of an assortment of people who were well off, who thought they had the American dream. And then in the last 2 years or 3 years, it was taken away in some fashion. Well, I think what we have to remember is we have to look ahead and optimistically come together and say, you know what? We do have some things of value. And the value is that education, because that's what's going to put us back in so we can be competitive. And the president has outlined what he means by being competitive, by getting folks that, for example, may not have had good job skills, or they lost their job, the factory went away, it was outsourced. Now individuals need to have a credential. That is the number one point I think that everyone has to understand. It's no longer okay just to have a GED or a high school education. Now, the prerequisite, because we're competing with other countries, let alone our own, is that you have to have, at a minimum, at least a 1-year to 2-year community college certificate or degree. My choice, obviously, is to continue to go on and to do even more, but at least get a fighting chance to get your foot in the door. And so many workers that I have talked to across this country during the last 2 years has been that many of them haven't been in a classroom, quite frankly, for 25 years. The last time they were in a classroom was when they were in high school, or perhaps they completed high school, went into the military, and found a job. So they are scared to death as to what is before them. And our challenge is to make it real for them, to make it comfortable for them, to understand that we can create settings. We can create laboratory settings for them to learn, because we know how to do that. And some of you here have been in this arena now for maybe decades. But take a step back as well, because the new demographic is you have an older student, you have one that's probably more diverse, you probably have individuals that are well over the age of maybe even 45 and 50 who are now going to be coming to your campus asking for your assistance. And believe me, many of them, as I said, are scared to death because they don't know how they're going to do. They don't know how well they're going to be able to compete in the classroom, let alone to find that other job. But that's going to be something that all of us are going to be required to work together with. And that's why I think the community college is perfectly positioned to do that, to work with all our segments of government, the local level, the state level, the federal level of government, and also with our partners, the business community. And I mean big business. Business meaning those folks that make it happen in your community, not necessarily the Fortune 500, because they weren't in my backyard when I was growing up, but the ones that are there every single day that hire up the 25 people or maybe the 5 people or the 30 people, but need, nevertheless, to have a good, competent workforce, making sure that we're partnering with them, understanding what their needs are, and not just having a conversation on the phone or at a monthly meeting, but I'm even talking about having individuals from industry help to write curriculum that meets the needs of that business community that for a long time has felt ignored, in some cases by community colleges. We didn't really ask for that to happen in some of the grant programs that we used to provide to the community. Now we're saying as a requirement, You must be able to provide adequate training that leads to something, that leads not just to a piece of paper, but that will be transferable to a job. So the criteria isn't just a certificate anymore, because that doesn't guarantee you a job. But it's to be able to cultivate the relationship with businesses so that we can have that smooth transition. And that's where the community college can be that bridge. Because I know most of you here in the room have those relationships. But now it's about moving a little farther and even thinking about what opportunities are going to be there in the next 10, 15, and 20 years as a region. Now, keep in mind, we just went through one of the most horrendous job losses in the automobile industry. Just look at what happened in Detroit, Flint, Michigan, where middle-class jobs over the last course of few years have been decimated, pretty much. Well, I can tell you that a visit that I had last week in Detroit, I got to visit where some of our investments the Department of Labor has made with community colleges and also with employers. I saw for the first time labor management working together to assemble one of the new products, a hybrid vehicle, the Chevy Volt. And to be able to go on the assembly floor, talk to people, and hear them out, and understand what their concerns are. You know what their biggest excitement was? That they got pulled back to work. That now they're producing a product that consumers want, that there is a market for. In fact, they're going to be producing so much that a lot of these vehicles that they're producing, not just the Chevy Volt, but other vehicles will be going to overseas, which will help us with exports, which will help us with job creation. And not everything is, how could I say, in the form of high technology. Some of it is, but you still need people who can package, ship, account, do accounting, people that can understand how to operate computers, yes, but also dealing with personnel. All of these skills are things that community colleges offer, and that's what the business community would like. I think that there's a challenge here for us to think about how we work with those entities that are coming back online, so to speak. And the automobile industry is one of them. You can see it in the fact that they paid back their loans, GM and Chrysler. Ford didn't need it. They're doing well. They've got the Ford Focus. Their vehicles will be going all over the country. And, in fact, some of them are bringing back those jobs. So it isn't just the automobile industry, but it's also the suppliers and the restaurants and the office supplies and all the other entities that are impacted when an industry goes down. And once that comes back, then there's more appetite to hire people up. But we need to have people that are going to be ready for those jobs. And right now, as I said before, many of those employers are saying, these folks that we need don't have the appropriate skills in some manner. So we need to fine-tune that and make sure that our curriculum and our programs at community colleges are really doing the right thing and that we can measure it. And not wait for 6 months to measure it, but be able to monitor ourselves and keep on track. Because that's what the public expects of us. This is their money. This is taxpayer money that we're given, that we are entrusted with. And I, as a Secretary of Labor, know that fully well. And right now, I think I can share with you that the environment in Washington is not as favorable to some of the programs that some of you and I care about. And we know we need to tighten our belt. There's no doubt that the president understands this. He just unveiled his budget. You can see he's making hard choices, cutting back in community programs, including the Pell Grant program that will take away funds or remove funds for those individuals that attend summer school. They're saying that the evidence doesn't prove that that's really something that's much needed. Well, take a look at that and figure out where you fit in, where your campus fits in there, and what we can do to help provide the support for those individuals that do pretty much come year-round, but that really need to have an important element, and that is to be able to get that certificate to be ready for that job. And I told the group earlier that I spoke to, the California community colleges, that people aren't just looking necessarily for the 2-year degree. They're looking for a 1-year degree, a 6-month degree, or even a 6-week degree. And some are looking for on-the-job training. So while they are working, they are also taking classes at your institutions. And you need to understand that there are opportunities to make that happen. Some of you have already taken advantage of that, but some campuses have not. Some campuses also need to kind of look to see where the industries of growth are in your own neighborhood. I know there's some fantastic programs where we have nursing, we have medical technicians, people in the pharmacist aid positions that are being created to kind of link with our hospital associations in different regions. And these jobs are growing. I can tell you that every month for the last 2 years, a single area that has always increased in terms of job creation has been in the healthcare arena, whether it's health IT, whether it's ambulatory care, assisted living, long-term care, all of that has shown a growth consecutively. So whether it's in manufacturing, renewable energy, we have some good opportunities for us to focus in on. And I can tell you that in the next 30 years, any job that is available, that's going anywhere, is going to require some level of college education. That's why the president has said and made investments to say that he wants to see at least 5 million people obtain a certificate from a community college, whether that's for 1 year or 2 years. He is making that dream, I think, a part of our being, so to speak. That this is something that I think all of us need to talk about and hopefully be able to wrap our arms around. And I think that, again, it's important to understand where the jobs are going to be. They're going to be in the high-tech area. They're going to be in areas also that are going to create, I think, challenges for some of us. And as I said earlier, there are a lot of people who are scared to death to take on that next step. But we have to make it comfortable for them. And we have to sometimes give them the tools they need in their culturally sensitive manner so that they won't be intimidated and they'll get the information right and they will have a good shot at that job and hopefully be able to stay in that job for some time. Those are things some of you are already doing, and I commend you for doing that. I think one of the things that we have to also understand is that this president really does care about community colleges. That's why we have made more than $1 billion investments in community colleges through the workforce training programs. And that's something that I think all of you need to be aware of, because as you make your visits up to the Hill and talk to members, and they may ask you, well, what is your campus doing about job training? What are you doing to really get people into the workforce? You need to remind them what that means and how you came about getting involved in that, because it takes time to get programs set up. And you don't have an immediate turnaround in a matter of 6 months in some cases. With at least some of the funding that we have made available, we ask you to do a lot. And you can't turn it on a dime in 2 months in some cases. And I know some of you, it's a little harder to produce that actual number of students that went into the program and how many actually graduated and then got a job. That takes time, but people don't necessarily understand that on the Hill. Knowing as a former member, I know that. But I know also what I know about community colleges. And so you have to be very, very explicit about what you want to convey to members about education and about what's important in your communities, what's important at the community colleges. I spoke a little earlier about the fact that the population at our community colleges has changed, and that will continue to change. As demographics are, the minority groups will soon become majority groups. And in some cases, at some of your community colleges, that's happening. But what is important to understand is half of your population, if not already occurring, is going to be well over 25 years of age. So we used to call those reentry students when I was at the community college. Now they are the dominant students. And if you're not reaching out to them, because again, keep in mind that 14 million number of people that are unemployed, many of them are over 25 years of age. And we cannot forget that generation of people. So we need to bring them into the community college system. And I think that all of you here can understand how important and how excited I am about that. One of the things that I wanted to let you know is just 2 weeks ago, Secretary Duncan and I of Education announced the Trade Adjustment Assistance Community College and Career Training Grant Program. That solicitation went out. We're expecting to dole out at the beginning about $500 million. In the course of 4 years, it will add up hopefully to $2 billion unless someone takes it away. I hope they don't, and I hope that we'll be able to do some great things, because I know many of you are struggling right now in your states where your governors are saying that there's not enough money to spread around, there's not enough revenue coming in, so community colleges are going to take a hit. That's happening in the state where I come from, in California. But nevertheless, this money will help you in terms of building capacity. So if you had that nursing program or automotive program that's looking at high-tech skills, this is an opportunity to work with other campuses, with businesses, nonprofits as well. And I'm encouraging you to do that because I want to see diversity. Remember that, the D word, demographics, diversity, to make sure that we are really collectively bringing everybody in the community college system and addressing our areas that we are geographically supposed to be serving. So those are the kinds of grants that are going to be going out to you, and I hope that all of you will be able to take advantage of them. Each state, by the way, or through the community college system, will be able to receive up to $2.5 million. That's a big chunk of money, don't you think? It is. And I can tell you that there will be many folks watching to see what we do with that. And so I'm going to rely very heavily on you, on your partners in business, the workforce investment boards, and also the collaboration that you have or may want to begin to have with your one-stops. And those one-stops should be collaborating and be a source of input to send students to you, or to send those re-entry students that I was talking about. So this has to be a pattern that I think would be successful for people to engage in. But the money is there for a short time. And like anything else, money doesn't last too long around here in Washington. And I can tell you that we have to make the case that your programs work, that they're able to graduate and provide the best training for employers. Because employers are the ones that seem to have a very captive audience here in Washington. And they've been able to persuade some people to understand that somehow our training programs are not meeting the needs of these employers. Well, I happen to know that's not true in all cases, and I have met with several larger corporations who have told me that they benefited from partnerships, the collaboration with DOL and the community colleges. So I hope that we can get letters of support from some of those companies that have been working with you, that have evidence and proof that they successfully have hired people that have gone through your training programs in partnership with them. Those are the success stories that people want to hear about, the real faces, not just the statistics, but the real faces, and you have that evidence. And I would ask you to send that information to my Assistant Secretary, Jane Oates, who is here with me today. Lastly, I will just say to you, next week, I'm going to be traveling with Secretary Duncan, and we'll be traveling to the Community College of Philadelphia to promote community college partnerships. So I hope all of you will take a listen and understand that we are working very closely with the Department of Education, and again, putting community colleges in the center and making sure that that at least is the first step in making sure that we can compete, that we can innovate, and we can rebuild. And those are the three things that the President talked about in his State of the Union message. But what he did say that I think has to be remembered here also is that when we make cuts, just like a household, you've got a budget, you've got to be clear of what your priorities are. He said he will not go after vulnerable populations.